guys, it's Hollie here for PlayStation Access. I found this massive corridor in the back of E3, and inside of it was Lorne Lanning.
Oh, spooky. Hi, Hollie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, let's start with talking about the success of New and Tasty, which came to PlayStation 4. What was that like, having a new generation, like fans that didn't grow up playing Abe, play it for the first time? What was that like?
It's terrifying, because it really is like, we designed this game, we released it 17 years ago. And so we had a lot of parents saying, I want my kids to play it, or I played it with Abe.
Yeah,
but the kids are seeing the old version. So we're going through and we're like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do it smart? How do we do, we're facing the audience, and the audience is saying, remake that game, but don't change anything.
Yeah, remake it, but I want exactly the same.
Yeah, and you're like, well, then why should we?
But then why are we remaking it?
So, but the point was, they didn't want a certain nostalgia lost, and that was very clear. So
it's magic, right?
Well, thank you.
It's good feelings that you remember. It's like a smell that you recognize. It brings back good memories of home cooking.
Right.
An old nostalgic game.
For me, that's pre-mixed gasoline for motocross bikes. When I smell it, I'm like, I'm alive. I'm alive. Yeah. It's pretty sad, but that's true.
What about then? What's next for Abe? Like, we're going to see Exodus, maybe?
Well, we're in the planning stages.
Okay.
So we've announced we're in the planning stages. And the idea being, really what we're doing, and this is just the blatant truth of it, is we're trying to figure out how to get back to us self-financing new IP. And that means lots of money, new characters, new stories, new all of that. And we're trying to figure that out. And we're getting better, and we're getting closer, and we're getting closer. But let's face it, that's millions of dollars to do that.
Especially if you want to fulfill a real dream. I mean,
yeah, well, we think the audience is saying, okay, if it's Oddworld, we have a certain expectation. We're like, if we're building brand new stuff for Oddworld, that expectation is not an indie budget.
Yeah, no, it's...
Right, but we want an indie be there.
Yeah.
And so we like that...
The control, the feeling, the small teams, and the passion that you get, right, from being in charge of your own dreams.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's nice, and you're a little bit more master of your own destiny there. So in Exodus, we're looking at this is what we did with Odyssey was we reinvigorated a classic, and then we tried our best to squeeze as much more entertainment value and quality gameplay and challenge threshold, and tolerances as much as we could, and not lose the feeling of the classic.
Yeah, what it is.
Yeah, and so that's our goal with Exodus. And then like we did with Odyssey, there's lots in New and Tasty, there's lots of new surprises. Like if you remember, Abe's Exodus had multiple Mudokons following, and Odyssey didn't, but we brought it to New and Tasty right out of the gate. So we hope to do more things like that, where there's opportunities that we could play with ideas, play with things we wanted to originally do. We've learned from several games since then. We built Munch, we built Stranger, we built games that we started building games that we never completed.
The vault of kind of game ideas that never quite made it to fruition.
But they're all Oddworld, so it all helped, whether or not they released, it helped us to understand our own planet's history, our own planet's backstory way deeper. There's a lot of richer material to dive into, and that's what we hope to do. So in planning for Exodus, we're like, okay, how do we do what we did with New and Tasty, and how do we add some special stuff to it as well? We don't have dates yet. We're not fully in the trench on it yet. We're planning.
We're planning.
And then we're also constantly looking at how do we do Oddworld better when we get to new stuff, when we get to new material, and hopefully that comes sooner than later.
Hopefully.
We absolutely, hopefully, because it all depends on the audience, right?
Exactly.
They have to like it, they have to support us, they have to buy the games.
Yeah.
That's what's funding us today.
Exactly.
So we really are sort of crowdfunded, except we do it after we sell the product.
Yeah.
Like business the old way.
Business the old way? What's that?
Yeah, exactly.
But what is that like for you when you do come out here and there are things like Kickstarter and you see big projects like Shenmue, which is massive, but then we have smaller projects like the Ukulele team have been extremely successful. They closed their Kickstarter yesterday. They asked for 100,000. They closed on 3 million.
Did they really?
Yes. Do you look at things like that and think maybe that's the future for Abe's, or just even for the team?
How can we not?
I mean, it's
not
there. I mean,
right? How
it's
can
helping
we not?
people do the same thing, right? Banjo-Kazooie, they wanted to bring it back, but do something different.
So the thing for us is we didn't want to go out there and say, give us $400,000 and hope that we get 2.5 to 3 million. Right? And what happens if we get 1.75? Now we can't do it, but we've told people we could. So we want to be honest. We want to say, you know what? Here's what we've figured out something's going to cost. But so by the time we get to that platform where we're engaging crowdfunding, and
you want to feel ready.
we want to be straight about it. We don't want to say, oh, let us go out there cheap and hope we win big. When we do it, we want to say, this is how we want to do it. This is what you're paying for. This is our track record. This is who we are. And you know what? We're probably going to be asking for more than normal. Now, maybe that's just hanging ourselves by the neck, but we still have a lot of decisions to make before we get to that point. Certainly, it's one of the most attractive options available today. And I think one of the great things about it is if you do it well, now someone did it well, Chris Roberts did it really well.
Plenty of people have done it real well.
Yeah, and we were talking like that was exceptionally well. I think he's over 90 million now.
Jeez.
You know? Yeah. So
AAA titles don't have budgets like that.
Yeah, well, some do, you know, but no
but
indies own them. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But what about things like new technology? Because it's been mentioned that you're interested in things like virtual reality, potentially things like Project Morpheus. Did you, as a designer and a man that has created an incredible game like Abe, sit there and think, God, you know, would Abe's ever go to Morpheus? And if so, how would you do 2D?
It's a good question, right? But I think the really smart way to approach VR is to think of what is necessary for VR first, and then birth out of that. Trying to reverse engineer existing properties into VR is not necessarily the smartest way. So I think there's room. There's a lot of things we'll be seeing. VR, anyone who it's not fair for the audience today because they're hearing us say a lot about it, but the majority of the audience has never seen the things we've seen. They've seen silly people looking like this.
It's an experience you have to have yourself to really appreciate and understand it. Right? Otherwise, it's just it's me looking like a bit of an idiot on camera.
Exactly, right? So when that happens, and when you actually experience it as you have, you go, wow, game changer. So as a serious designer, you can't look at that and say, nah, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right? You go, wow, what can we do with it?
What can we do with it?
But as an indie, we go, when is the install base going to be there? When are these things going to happen? And you have to be really careful about how you spend your money. And if you miss, all we got to do is miss, a few strikes and then we're out, because our pockets are just not that deep. And then we're back on the begging train.
Back on the Kickstarters.
Yeah. So all of those things are options. We're exploring them all. We're looking at them. We think we'd be in pretty positive shape if we engaged it. We just want to make sure we have the right story, the right content, the right fit at the right time, that's what the audience wants, and the time's right for us to do it. So
amazing.
That's our plan.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time. Well,
My
you
pleasure.
guys, if you haven't checked out Abe's yet, I'd pick up New and Tasty on PS4. It's coming soon to PlayStation Vita, and maybe one day Exodus in the future.
Planning.
We're planning. No. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you can stay tuned to the YouTube channel because there's loads more coming up.